I'm Carrie Adams, and you're listening to Carrie's Connoisseurs, coming to you from Solid Gold Podcasts. Here we talk to the movers and shakers, the drinkers, the dreamers, and all the people who make it happen in the liquor and luxury industries from around the world. Good morning, everybody. It's the same morning that I've been speaking to Mutli Mahasi. So now I am going to put my energies in the direction of Paul Cluver the 17th.
Hello, Carrie.
Paulie, you're not really the 17th, are you?
No, I'm Paul the 4th.
You are the 17th, you are, but you're not.
Yeah. But listen, the good thing is everyone refers to my father as doctor. So there's a good separation there now. I
think you're the only person in the Cluver family who's not a doctor.
Yeah, I'm not very clever.
I always said to everybody when I first met Paul Cluver is that somebody got that surname wrong. The U should be changed to an E, because it's the Cluver family. They've all got doctorates, but not just one. Like some of them maybe 2 or 3 doctorates. They've all left indelible footprints on planet Earth. They're all amazing. Paul Cluver is Paul Cluver the 17th, really, really, really. He's taken over the running of the beautiful Paul Cluver farm in Elgin. I say Elgin. Do you say Elgin?
I say Elgin.
Potato to potato, tomato.
Yeah.
I say Elgin.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been to Elgin and you haven't visited Paul Cluver and you haven't got a bottle of Paul Cluver wine in your fridge or your cellar at home, you're in trouble, because you should have.
But it's easy to fix.
It's very easy to fix.
Yeah. Come visit and buy some wine.
It's that easy. Yeah. It's that easy.
Yes.
Paulie.
Yes.
This program is all unashamedly about luxury and gorgeousness and quality and deliciousness and lovely people and nice things. And like I said to Mutli earlier, hedonism, which is my understanding of what Epicurean is. If you're an Epicurean, you're a hedonist, and you like all things gorgeous. Paul Cluver is one of those gorgeous things. Born on the farm, bred in Elgin. Tell us your life story a little bit. We need everybody to know where you went to school, how you met your beautiful wife. We need to talk about your gorgeous children. That's a more interesting
story, how I met my wife.
Okay, off you go.
I grew up in Cape Town, actually, not in Elgin.
Why?
And as you mentioned, my father
he was a doctor.
He was a doctor. So,
and a very clever one at that.
Yeah, well, if you can imagine the 70s and 80s, I think in total there were less than 10 neurosurgeons in the country. In South Africa as a whole. And I mean, he had to fly to places like PE because they didn't have a neurosurgeon there.
Do they have brains there? That's ugly, isn't it? That's ugly. Sorry, PE. Sorry, PE.
I'm sure they do. But so no, we grew up in Cape Town. Ironically, my grandfather also lived in Cape Town, and my father went to the German school there.
Because your lineage is German.
Yes. Yeah, so I love Cape Town. I'm a true born Cape Townian. Love the place.
You're quite a different sort of a Cape Townian, though.
Yeah, I don't.
You don't
is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, I don't notice you crocheting your own underwear out of sort of ripped up, shredded, recycled Checkers bags, or
Yeah.
In Cape Town, if you're not doing that, if you're not 150,000% sort of organic, schmorganic, you don't fit in.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, what's been amazing how Cape Town has improved, and
with all the Transvaalers that have gone down there.
Definitely, yes.
Gauteng,
I think the places become more interesting the more diverse they are.
Yeah.
And the more inclusive that diversity is.
Yes.
And one of the results of that diversity is often amazing foods. And that's why Cape Town has such an interesting area of food scene. It's got wonderful chefs, wonderful people going there.
Yeah.
But it's
lots more nice restaurants in Cape Town. But it's because it's a seaside town, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, look, Paris is not a seaside town, and it's in the middle. It's a great example of.
Yeah, it's true, I suppose.
So you don't have to be a seaside
Siena,
town. Yeah.
Pisa.
Yeah.
Not really seasides.
Not really seasides.
No.
So there are great examples of where that happens. But another example of melting pots in Europe, for example, is Belgium, where you get lots
Brilliant
of...
for food.
Brilliant for food.
Mussels and chocolates.
Mussels, chocolates. But,
lace.
And it's usually that interaction of different cultures that makes for interesting experiences. And as I think Cape Town becomes more and more diverse, it actually becomes more and more interesting, which is a fantastic thing. And that diversity is not only diversity of South Africans, it's diversity of people from overseas as well. So you tend to get foreigners, a diverse selection of South Africans coming together, which is a wonderful thing. There's
a huge amount of foreigners who've bought property in Cape Town, really. It's a bit of a worry to me that so many foreigners are buying into our beautiful winelands. Do you think we're going to end up with Lederhauser and stuff on the wine farms now?
No, I don't think so. But look, it's not a bad thing, because what it ultimately does is it drives the success of the industry globally. And we do need that.
Oh, 100%. No, listen, I'm all for foreign investment. It's a good idea. And especially if it's going to make a big difference to the quality of our wines. You know, the Germans have for 1 million years made some of the most beautiful wine in the world. If you go to the Mosel, and we're not going to say no to that. It's not only
the Germans, it's the Americans, it's the French.
Everybody's dipping their toe in.
Glen Elly.
Made de Lancasan.
French-owned. It's Ken Forrester, French-owned now.
Valera.
Valera is French-owned. Warwick is American-owned now. And that brings a fantastic
it's a big diversity and hopefully lots more money. I mean, who in their right mind really wants to be putting money into South Africa at the moment? But clearly, the wine industry is still attractive enough to the rest of the world to actually bring some of those people in. So you were brought up in Cape Town, and your dad is a neurosurgeon. You've got 2 sisters.
4.
Why do I only know 2?
Well, you probably know 2 that works more with the wine side of the business.
2 that are your minions.
No, so I have 3 sisters that work with me in the family business of the 4. We 5 kids with a 6-year age gap between the oldest and youngest.
I actually knew 5 kids in 6 years. That's brave. Your mother deserves
That's crazy.
She deserves a prize of some description.
Yes. My appreciation of that only really developed once I had my own children. And I have 2 under the age of 8.
And it's testy.
I can't imagine having 5 under the age of 8. That's just insane.
I know. Well, I only had 1 because I just knew, you're going to know your limitations in life. I just knew that 1 was about as much as ours, and Adam's made up for it.
Yeah.
Every single one of these grey hairs came from that.
Yeah.
We're diverse.
Yes.
School. Where did you go to school?
In Cape Town. Jan van Riebeeck.
That same horrible man who started all the trouble.
Yes. I see that.
Everything's his fault.
We're rebranding to JFR at the moment. But no, it was a wonderful experience. We grew up City Bowl. Went to Stellenbosch University.
And what did you study at university?
I did a degree in horticulture and economics, and then a degree in philosophy and value and policy studies.
Value and policy studies. What's that?
So, I mean, it's a fascinating topic. It focuses on decision making, and so what drives your decision making drives your value system.
I'm a Libran, right? Decision making is not one of my strengths. In fact, it doesn't even enter my life. I try not to think about it anymore because I'm so pathetic at it. Decision making.
Yeah, you look back in history. For me, the fascinating thing about that is who were great decision makers, and you're only truly tested with decision making with hard decisions or unpopular decisions. If you think in a South African context, Mandela was one of the great decision makers. He had the ability to make unpopular decisions.
And remain popular.
But also got everyone to back those decisions at the end of the day.
Yes, well, he was a great diplomat.
Yeah.
So he used to, that's one of the terrible traits of being a Libran, is that you can't make a decision, but you are diplomatic.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there are some Librans who are diplomatic. I'm not.
Yeah.
But most of them are.
No, so it's a fascinating topic. I could bore you on that for hours, but it's and as I said, I think the day-to-day decisions we also almost make automatically.
Well, it's almost like
it's
autopilot,
it's on
isn't
default,
it?
Right?
It's autopilot.
It's only when people challenges your autopilotness, then you have to think about what is the right decision.
Mm.
That's when decision making becomes interesting.
It's so interesting, It's really, really fascinating about that autopilot. Because I think it's that autopilot that we need to focus on re-energizing. Because I think the global autopilot has gone tilt. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's gone a bit tilt.
But it's far easier to drink wine than try to fix the global autopilot.
But I think if we could just, maybe we need to speak to Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And see if there's a chip of sorts that we could put in that would just tweak that autopilot. That, if you think of it, Paulie, well, whether you're a Buddhist or a Catholic or a, what do you call it, a member of the Taliban, or no matter what you belong to, there's sort of like 7 or 10 rules that we just need to remember. There's just a couple that we just need to remember. It's like, be nice to the person next to you.
Yep.
Don't tell fibs.
Mm.
Don't steal Callum's computer.
Mm.
Don't stoop Paulie's wife. Do you know what I mean? There's sort of like common decency. And there's about 7 or 10 of them. And if we and all those doctrines say the same.
Yeah. I mean,
pretty much the same.
The great one is do unto others as you wish to be done.
Well, exactly.
Yourself,
that's
right?
even just one. You just need the one. Right? That's it. We just need the one.
Yeah. So there's.
So that was a short degree because it was just that one thing you learned.
Yeah. Yes.
So you did that, and then in the meantime, when did the farm come into the Cluver space?
So my great-great-grandfather bought it in the late 1900s, so 1896. And it was a very basic farm. It was for summer grazing for sheep. And Elgin at the time was not a very popular area to do anything in because it was wet, cold. You couldn't actually really have livestock there.
And it's cold, it's high up, and
it was impossible to get into. So,
in the clouds most of the time, isn't it?
And you have to remember the pass, Solari's Pass, was only built late 19th century. So that means...
That's because Jan van Riebeeck was being lazy.
Yeah, well, it actually was built by Sir
Larry.
It was Henry Cole.
Not Sir Larry.
Sir Larry Cole. Sorry, Sir Larry Cole. That's right, yeah. So, the same place Colesburg is named after. I always thought it was because of
it was coal, but it's C-O-L-E, actually.
Exactly,
yes.
Yeah. So that's the same guy. He built Sir Larry's Pass, and...
it's quite an engineering feat, that Sir Larry's Pass.
It is, but before that, and if you ever drive over Sir Larry's Pass again...
You couldn't get over the top.
They went straight down. And if you read the old stories, the ox wagons were absolutely destroyed going down the pass.
They had no shock absorbers. They had no brakes.
So it was horrible.
They had all the grannies and grandpas and tinkers and tailors and the dogs and the children. It was remarkable, really.
So the bottom line is it was really hard to get produce out of the valley.
Yeah.
Because access wasn't there, right?
And that was the valley. What did they call that valley? Well, it was like the land of plenty or something like that.
The Afrikaans name for it was Groenland or Greenland.
Was it Groenland?
Yeah, and that's the one mountain's also named that, Groenlandberg or Greenland Mountain.
But it was also like the land of plenty. Canaan. It was like there was some reference to the Bible.
Not that I
We'll move away from there because we don't know that. I'm going to show a little bit of a lack of depth of knowledge there, but it was something like the land of milk and honey because it is such a fertile valley, isn't it?
It's an incredible valley, but it really only took off post-Second World War. So not a lot happened in the valley. What happened post-Second World War is Europe needed food. And Elgin already was identified as a place to grow apples. But the demand for South African apples shot up, and it was we could bring in the seasonality. So our ability to supply Europe with apples
That's interesting.
In the off-season, their off-season. That's what propelled the success of
So what we really need is another world war in order to get the the apple industry booming.
Well, the irony nowadays is that back then you could only store apples for a limited period of time, but today you can store apples for up to 12 months.
Ask Woolworths.
So seasonality has disappeared. So our biggest competitor, where 30 years ago it would have been South America, New Zealand, Australia, today it's France, Poland.
Oh, really?
Because they can store their fruit and all year round.
How do they store it for so long?
It's called controlled atmosphere. So you reduce the oxygen, and the apple almost goes into hibernation.
Do you think that if I put that into my bedroom,
you'll live longer?
I'll live at night, and I turned it on.
You might, but it won't be very pleasant.
Do you think I'd have wrinkles? Do you think I'll stop getting wrinkles?
Yeah. Well, you know that one of the worst things for wrinkles is UV. So that's why we in South Africa don't age as well as they do in Europe, purely because of the sun.
Oh, UV light from the sun.
UV light, yeah, UV light. So if you wanna have good skin when you're old,
don't go in the sun.
Don't go sun tanning.
Especially not if you like us and we like albinos.
Yeah.
You're so lily white. You go in the sun, it's not good.
No.
So your family bought an apple farm, and they did really well because they were Cluvers, and they made, and now we can brag a bit here. It is like the biggest apple space in the country. They've got a thing there called Cromco. Do you own Cromco, or is it like a cooperative thing?
No, there are 10 shareholders in Cromco.
Yeah. It's as big, guys. It's as big as like 47 rugby fields. If I tell you, you go to Paul Cluver. Elgin just is Paul Cluver. You just see a big thing that says Cromco, and you just see everything is just Paul Cluver. And it's the most alarming space what you Cluvers have done there. So all those apples.
There's 2 a day and Fruitways. There's some other phenomenal farmers.
But why don't we see any signs up?
Well, they're just not on the main road.
Because they're not you, that's why. Because I'm bragging about you, because it's nice to brag about people who deserve bragging about. And the Cluvers do. We're lucky to have the Cluvers in South Africa. They could have buggered off like so many other people and left us stranded with nothing. So, if you talk apples, you talk Cluver. If you talk Elgin, you talk Cluver. And I'm going to sort of stick my head out and say as well, if you talk wine, you talk Cluver, because that's how I got to know the Cluver family. They make some of the loveliest wine in the country because it's coming from this beautifully cool, dreamy climate, high up in the mountains, close enough to the sea to get some maritime sort of influence. And always for me, I love Chardonnay. Your Chardonnay is just one of the nicest Chardonnays in the country. And it's just got nicer and nicer and nicer. And we'll have to get on to Andries Burger, who happens to be Paulie's brother-in-law. But he's also the winemaker and has been there for a long time and making lovely wine. We'll talk about that in a minute. You finished university and went straight to work at the farm?
I did, yeah. Which I don't recommend.
No.
I for anyone that has a family business, I recommend if they have children, go work somewhere else first. It's just a much better experience to do that.
The father's not stupid though. He conditioned you from day one.
No, he did. And if you ask me, do I regret it? No, I don't. I mean, I had the most privileged experience working for the family business and the opportunity to help grow and build it.
Yes.
but yeah. So when I went straight back. It's harder, I think, because everyone thinks you're not there on merit. You there.
So you could have been dunce. You could have had the dunce cap in class and still been the MD.
Yes, which then is also bad for the family business, right?
Lucky you've got those clever genetics.
Yeah. So thank God we didn't screw it up. But it's. Yeah, so I think that it was a tough first couple of years for me being involved in the family business, and it was a tough time for the Apple industry when I joined.
Yes.
So early 2000s, the Apple industry in South Africa was bleeding.
Yeah.
But we managed to get through it. At the same time, we also then managed to build a winery, which actually is capital intensive. So you've got these two things that was...
But it's sort of time for that to come of age. And I think you and I were chatting last night. I think Paul Cluver's winery or wines, I think they are coming of age now. They've earned their stripes. They've done all their homework. They're ticking all the boxes. The vineyards are getting some extra sort of rings in their stems. I think it all starts to fall into a comfier space after a few years. And so instead of these edgy, eager baby vines that are shouting, me, 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 let me be the one. There's some that have quite easily just risen above the rest. You've acknowledged them. You know which they are. Andries has been the winemaker for 20-something years. 27 years. He knows those vineyards. Like I know my shoes in my shoe cupboard, you know which one's going to be comfy on Tuesday and which one's going to go with your whatever. He's so comfortable with those vineyards. He's so comfy with your winery that it all starts to slip and slide so easily with no lubrication. It's perfect. It all starts happening naturally. And I think that's what I'm picking up from Elgin, well, from Paul Cluver at the moment, that the wines are not forced. They're not purporting to be anything other than what they organically are.
I think good wine, like good food and good company, is usually with things that are not overpowering and are too dominant. So our focus is to try to produce wines of elegance and balance, and a wine that doesn't say, I want to be the star of every show.
I was going to say, it's that me thing that starts off when you first start wine farming and you're so desperate for some kind of acknowledgement. I suppose when you first start anything, you want to be counted, don't you? And it makes you quite unattractive.
It certainly does. I think as you... and as with youth, you're 100% right. I mean, you want a recognition for your success, right? And if you don't get it, you almost want to jump up and down and say, "But hey, what about me?" Right?
Stamp your size 3 feet. Yeah.
But actually, I think just knowing that this is the best you can make from this property should be a reward enough, and then it changes your mindset also, because then you don't need lots of people to tell you that all the time.
No, you don't need anyone blowing smoke up your what's-its. You don't, because you know.
And then I think also people get to know. So I mean, if the amazing thing is, if you look at the greatest wines in the world, ranging from Burgundy to Bordeaux, so the Lafite, the Latours, they don't have to jump up and down. I mean, I think they're privileged that they don't have to jump up and down, but they also don't have to jump up and down just because they've been producing quality wines for centuries. And that means their focus is on doing it right every single time.
Yes, and they don't necessarily do it bigger, better.
No.
Some of those wineries, you and I know, we've been in them, some of them are seriously backward. They don't
But the
necessarily.
vines are amazing.
The
and what they
vines,
grow
but
is
it all
incredible.
comes from that blooming gardening. You've got to be a good gardener.
You do.
Yeah.
So good wine is made from good grapes.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've got to grow good grapes.
So you were how old when you got to the farm, and what did your father make you? Were you the garden boy?
No, I was in the production of apples when I joined.
So you were the gardener in the
I was
apple
an
orchard.
apple farmer.
Okay.
And, you know, the amazing thing is that what you have to realize is that unlike wine grapes, appearance means nothing with wine grapes. Because if there's a bump or the berry is not looking perfect, doesn't matter because it gets squashed in any case, right?
Mm.
With apples, appearance is everything.
And it's like an avo.
So you want to make sure that the apple is
pretty,
perfect.
It'll be a pretty apple.
So
that same one that Adam gave to Eve.
Yeah.
That same one. Yeah. She couldn't resist it.
Exactly. So apple farming, there's an incredible amount of detail that goes into it. And that detail is to ensure that you have the perfect fruit, and you want lots of it.
How do you make the perfect apple? I mean, it's got to be like that shape. It's got to have a special thing where the stem comes out. The skin's got to be smooth, so no pimples or blackheads on that apple.
So it starts with good genetics. So you need
it's the same old trouble.
Yeah. So
if you got shit genes, you're dead in the water.
So you need good apple plants. So good, the right varieties.
And do we have good apple nurseries in South Africa?
We do.
What's your favorite apple?
That's a good question. I oscillate between two, I would say.
I like Pink Ladies.
Pink Ladies are okay. I like the sister apple of Pink Lady more, which is Sundowner. So they both came out of a
Sundowner.
Yeah, the name recently changed to Joya as the marketing name for it. But the breeding name for Pink Lady was Crips Pink.
Crips? Was Crips a person?
And yes. And then he also produced the Crips Red, which is the sister apple of that.
Do you know what I quite like? And I never find them anymore. Golden Delicious apples.
They're still there.
God, they were delicious. My granny used to make baked apples out of them. And they tasted like custard, even before you put the custard on.
Yeah, the sad thing is that we are selling green Golden Delicious apples these days.
No, they used to be yellow.
Yes. And they tasted much better.
And they tasted like pears, actually.
Yeah. So I think that makes it
Why do we have to sell them green now?
So they store longer, which I think is a pity.
I think we should change that.
Yes, but it's not going to change.
Let's change that. So you went and became a gardener in the apple orchards. And then? Which rung did you jump to next?
Then I got involved in we went to the business school. I did a diploma in senior business management.
Just a diploma, not a doctorate. No, shame on you.
You see.
Shame on you, Paulie.
And I then took over finances in the business. And actually at that
point... And that's when all the shit hit the fan.
Well, that's when I said to my dad, this wine business is a terrible business. We should shut it down. We're just losing way too much money.
And then you fell in love.
Well, he said I can't shut it down before understanding the wine business. And then I fell in love with the wine industry. And
so it happens.
And I said I could make it work. I said...
we all think we can make it work. It's like a bad marriage. It's never going to work. No, but you think it can. And you believe in it.
No, it can work. It can work. It was a good marriage.
It's a wonderful marriage because the sex is great, but when you wake up in the morning, you got to pay the bills.
Yes. So I think what you have to realize, wine business is a long-term business.
Yeah.
But I think farming is a long-term business.
Of course it is.
The only time I think you can get into the wine business where it's short-term is when you don't grow the grapes.
Yes.
So you don't own the property, you don't grow the grapes, and it's then you realize also you can't produce after fashion. So if someone comes to you today and they go,
yeah, you have to say no, I'm not interested in trends.
Yeah, because if you think about it, if someone says, well, now Petit Verdot is interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know how long it takes to get into a new variety?
Another 20 years.
It's I would say it's a minimum of 5 to 7 years.
7
right?
years.
By that time, people are saying, well, I'm no longer interested in Petit Verdot.
I know, we've moved on to
Malbec.
Yeah, I know.
So I think the the real important thing is to say, what can I really do well, irrespective of trends? And I'm going to do it so well that even though that's not the fashionable thing now, people will still seek it. It's going to be so
irresistible that I'll buy it. Yeah.
So people will never stop drinking Sauvignon Blanc. They'll never stop drinking Cabernet Sauvignon.
So what I was saying to you last night is that if you stick to your knitting and you know everything as much as you can possibly know of it, know as much as you can, which is preaching to the converted when you're speaking to the Cluver family, but just be cleverer than everybody else and make sure that you're making the single best Chardonnay that you know Paul Cluver Farm can produce. Everybody gets to fall in love like you did. So they know if they go to the shop that last year the Paul Cluver Chardonnay that we bought was just delicious. And God, there's another 7,000 labels on it, but we've got 20 people for lunch. We know what we're going to get in that Paul Cluver bottle.
Yep.
It's nice.
Yep.
It's classy. It's sexy. It's all the things it needs to be. Let's just buy a case.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the secrets to your success is that you just are a very loved brand.
But I think that we are a brand also known for certain things. So if we brought our Chenin Blanc tomorrow,
nobody would buy it.
Rightly so, would say, well, what do they know about Chenin Blanc?
They might try it, and then there'd be a lot of debate around it, and everybody would say, no, we don't want Chenin from Elgin, which they don't.
And I think that what you have to look at is that I think most people like specialization. And for me, always the best example is when let's go out for dinner, and you tell me, well, where are we going? And if I say to you, well, it's this fantastic new restaurant, they do incredible steak, their Thai food's incredible, their sushi is wonderful, their Italian pastas is wonderful.
Soup and they make pizza,
Then you're going to start worrying about the restaurant, right? But if I say to you just, it's the best Italian restaurant you can imagine, then you know what you're going to get. Or it's the best steakhouse that you can imagine, then you know what you're going to get. And I think that level of specialization is also required within wine production. Is what do you do well? Focus in on it and really hone your craft.
Don't change your label all the time. Although you've recently just changed, I think, the texture of your label, which I like.
We have.
I like I like touch and feel.
It's a tough thing to do, right? When you change.
But you've made it just classier, but it doesn't. It still looks like the same Paul Cluver label, just less fancy schmancy, filigree and stuff on it. It's plainer, isn't it? So we quite like plain.
So I think a good example of evolution, is with the car industry understands that really well. So if you look at BMW or Mercedes-Benz, the grid might have changed.
God, some of them are so ugly nowadays. Have you seen them? Looks like the cheese grater in my kitchen.
But you still know that BMW always has the two kidneys grid, right?
And the Porsche has like the Runny Friday lights on the front.
Yeah,
I know exactly.
So you still go, it's part of the family. It's part of that DNA. It's part of that history. So I get that, and I think that's important. Is to not just walk away from your heritage. But
heritage is so important, even though we've been told that we have to cancel it all now. But don't ever cancel it. You just keep that heritage going, and you keep. So you did apples. Then you came into the wine business to do the finances. When did you actually get to squeeze some bunches of grapes?
So I respect Andries too much to go and run around in his cellar. And
he's the nicest man, guys. He's really the nicest.
I have a rule: I will never taste out of his winery without him being present.
That's good.
So if you want to taste out of the barrels in our winery, the winemaker needs to be there.
Yeah.
Because he also knows at what stage all the various barrels are. He tends to it every single day. I've squashed some grapes, but
have you ever made some wine for yourself?
No.
I think you should. Why don't we make a wine?
Because I believe there's people much better than I.
We can make it out of apple juice, out of Golden Delicious.
We can make a cider, which we do make, right?
You do make cider. You make nice cider.
Yeah.
Paulie, so you still run the business. I mean, he's playing it down. He actually runs a very big empire there because the apples is huge. I think apples must be bigger than wine for you, hey?
Yes.
And then the wine business is certainly not to be sneezed at. They make how many different expressions now? About 7, 8?
Of wine. We do 7 wines in total, but 3 Chardonnays and 3 Pinot Noirs. So our focus very much is on Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. The only red wine we make is Pinot Noir.
You used to make a cab, do you remember?
I do.
And it was quite nice.
Yes.
Why did you stop? Just focus.
Focus, and I believe that our property was never going to produce a
the best cab
of the quality that you can produce in Stellenbosch.
Quite right.
So kudos to them. I think that if you want to drink a Cabernet,
go to Stellies.
Go to Stellies.
Yeah.
And they produce phenomenal wines.
No, they do. Some lovely Cabernet.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying the other night, talking about appellation control. It's starting to happen by itself, really. And we can't push and shove it and whatever. But everybody knows that Stellenbosch produces beautiful Cab. And everybody now knows that Elgin produces beautiful Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Yeah.
I mean, I tasted some of those Chardonnays from Freda and List the other day. From their Elgin vineyards. Yeah. Just so nice.
Yeah.
Just so nice. Really, really. And of course, Andrew Gunn's done an amazing job.
Yeah.
In Elgin. Yeah. You've all done well in Elgin. So, and we were talking about the Wallaces the other day. It's a nice community and you're making quality wines.
Definitely, yeah.
Paulie, your journey sort of got a little bit stunted when you tripped and fell in love with Alexandra.
Yeah.
She's lovely. She's gorgeous. We all couldn't believe Paulie'd fallen in love.
I thought my journey got better.
Of course it did. Well, it all sort of went squonk for a bit, didn't it?
I spent a lot of time commuting between South Africa and Singapore at the time. I met her in London. She was a lawyer in London when we met. And when I told her, but don't worry, I'll come back and visit you.
She'd moved to Singapore.
She told me she won't be there. She's moving to Singapore.
She's like a supermodel. She's beautiful. She's clever. She puts up with no Cluver shit, like nothing. Nothing. Not allowed to get away with anything. And
which is a good thing, right?
Good thing, because I think you could be quite of a handful. Given the chance, I think you might be a handful. So she doesn't put up with that. And I can remember you being completely and utterly smitten, Paul Cluver.
Yes, I still am.
Completely and utterly smitten. I couldn't believe that my Paulie got so smitten, so hit by that love stick. Next thing he made Alexander, and now there's a Max and a Nicholas. Tell us about them. You don't have to give away too much because we don't want the paparazzi after the Cluver family. But
we're blessed. Cute. We've got 2 boys. Our oldest is now in grade 2, and the youngest.
Is he at Jan van Riebeeck?
No, he's in German school.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Who's worse, Hitler or Jan van Riebeeck?
Well, I mean, Germans are about
not
Hitler,
all
right?
Hitler.
So,
not all about Hitler. Carrie Adams, yeah.
No, I think it's so. Alexandra is German, and born in Germany, and I was able to convince her to move to South Africa, which wasn't that hard. I think Cape Town's a fantastic place.
I remember the first time she came.
Yeah.
I think you stayed at my house en route to somewhere.
Yes.
And she was like a rabbit in the headlights. She hadn't been here before, I don't think. No, she had been to South Africa because her dad had been here.
And she, when she was at school, they did a school project for kids in the Kalahari where they built schools. So she was here before. Yeah.
So it really was a happy story, a happy wedding, gorgeous wedding. I remember it well. And 2 beautiful little boys. What's happening? What do we look forward to at Paul Cluver in the next 5 years? 5-year plan for Paul Cluver.
So for us, the really exciting thing that's taking place is this journey that we're on of the exciting for us is what we've been planting, and if you look at most people, what they'll tell you is as you get vineyard age, the complexity and depth in your wines just get better and better.
I know.
So for me, the wonderful thing is to see over time the maturity and the quality coming through, which is fantastic.
Well, we can brag now. Now's the time to brag, because this year at the London Wine and Spirits, International Wine and Spirits Show.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you're saying, sorry. It was International Wine Challenge, best Chardonnay.
Best Chardonnay.
In the world, yeah.
In the world, guys. And I'm not sure. I mean, it's always a very big category, that. It's a very big, bold statement. We don't know, maybe only 4 entered.
No.
How many? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
I'm not trying to take the wind out of your sails or anything, but how many people entered?
I think of Chardonnays, there's over 3,000 wines. The total competition was
so it really is the best
wines.
Chardonnay in the world.
Yeah.
The best Chardonnay in the world and the best white wine to come out of South Africa.
In the competition,
doesn't really get much better than that.
No.
And that was the 7 Flags Chardonnay.
Yeah.
It is extraordinary wine, and we've watched it grow from, I think, just a little, what's the word? A little sperm in Andries's head and an ovum in somebody else's head. I don't know. But they made it happen. And it's been growing. When was the first vintage of 7 Flags Chardonnay?
2014.
Yeah. So it's nearly 10 years ago.
Yeah. First vintage of 7 Flags Pinot Noir was 2006.
Yeah.
Released in 2009. So
yeah.
That's
so the 7 Flags is the flagship from the farm. And the Pinot Noir, they only make a Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay under that label, and it's smart wine, and everybody should have some of that in their cellar. But then let's tell everybody about the Village. Because that's just like every man's wine, isn't it?
Well, so both those wines actually came about as part of a journey, and the one with Pinot Noir, if you look as a category, there's no such thing as a cheap Pinot in South Africa. I don't think there's a Pinot Noir under 100 rand a bottle in South Africa, which already gives you an idea of where the pricing is. And we were asked, so could you produce a wine that gives people the opportunity as an introduction to Pinot Noir? And that was the challenge that we were given, and we set off. And the wonderful thing about that is it gives us an opportunity to do something with our younger vineyards.
Yes.
Because
so you made Rabina.
Well, yeah.
It is like Rabina.
It is lovely, fruit forward. It's still unmistakably Pinot Noir.
It's light and tinkly. So Pinot Noir has to tinkle.
Yeah.
It can't be Pinot Noir without tinkling. It tinkles in the glass. You can see through it. And when you put it in your mouth, on your tongue, if it doesn't tinkle, spit it out and buy a different bottle. It's got to tinkle in your tongue, doesn't it?
Well, Pinot of all the red varieties has got some of the greatest acidity in it.
Oh, it's gorgeous. And we love it.
I know very often their perception of Pinot Noir, they go, it's light, so it's not serious, or it's light, so can it age? And you and I both know you can pick up a bottle of Burgundy from
I told you, I had a 1949 the other night.
And it probably drank incredibly well.
It was gorgeous.
The other irony is people think that I can't have a heavy steak or something with Pinot Noir.
Oh my gosh, of course you can.
And I think especially the best steaks with a little bit of fat marbling in between
bit of a
works
Wagyu.
so well with Pinot Noir because
Wagyu
that acidity
and Pinot Noir.
It's fantastic. There's actually not a better pairing.
Not.
And so it's one of the best food wines that you can get because it works with a variety of dishes. But what it really does is it actually highlights your eating experience. Where if you do drink a heavy wine, it almost dominates the dish. Where what Pinot Noir does is cleanses the palate. It becomes a marriage between the two.
That's gorgeous. And I've always said, once you fall in love with Pinot Noir, it's the most expensive affair you are ever going to have.
This is true.
It is the most expensive.
But it's because it's one of the most difficult grapes to grow,
it's a
right?
bitch to grow. It's a bitch in the cellar. It's a bitch flat out, full stop. I was telling you, my grapes have genders, which is hugely politically incorrect, and I'm not even going to go there because I know you don't want to do that.
I hate.
But I won't even tell you what. I won't even tell you what gender Pinot Noir is, and it's of all 52 genders. Well, you know what they say, there's 2 genders and 50 mental disorders, but it's of all 50 mental disorders. Each grape, I have a gay one, a straight one, a transgender one. I have all of them. I won't tell you what Pinot Noir is.
Okay.
I'll tell you when you switch the camera off.
Yeah, okay. But so that's where Village Pinot Noir started, and then later on we were, can we do a Village Chardonnay? And what I don't like unwooded Chardonnay.
I do. It's like Chablis.
Well,
we love Chablis.
We do, but Chablis is not unwooded.
Not always, yeah.
And that's the difference. So, and that's exactly what the Village Chardonnay is. It's like a Chablis.
It is.
So there is oak on it, but there's no new wood on it.
There's no new, and it was just barrel fermented, wasn't it? You don't age in
so
oak.
some of it's aged in big foudres, some of it's in big concretes, some of it's in stainless steel. But it's just got this beautiful freshness. It's so easy to drink. I think it's a perfect introduction to what Chardonnay can be.
Gorgeous.
So the Village Chardonnay is I think it's the Chardonnay that should be in your fridge that you can drink every day.
Oh my goodness! In fact, I think that we should put some bag in a box.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. I would buy a bag in a box, Paul Cluver Village Chardonnay to keep in my. I don't put booze in my fridge in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Because I think.
Then you drink too much, or what?
Yeah. So all the stuff stays on my veranda or in my cellar.
I think you should at least have 1 or 2 bottles in your fridge in the kitchen.
I would put a 2-liter box of Paul Cluver Chardonnay. In fact, I'd cut a hole in one of my to fit the box in my fridge in my scullery. It's so nice, guys. You do need to go and buy a bottle of the Village Chardonnay. It's delicious. It's a lovely one. And then what do we do after that? Do we still make Riesling and Gewürz?
We don't make Gewürz. We do make Riesling. I think the Elgin appellation, because of its cool climate, is fantastic for Riesling.
Yeah.
And it is a fantastic varietal. It's a difficult varietal in South Africa because most people perceive it to be sickly sweet.
It used to be in South Africa.
Well, it also was confused with Paul Riesling or Crucian Blanc.
Yes.
Or
which is not to be recommended.
Well, it's a different varietal.
That's very, very diplomatic of you.
So Crucian Blanc doesn't have the natural acidity that Riesling has.
No.
And
some of those sweet Rieslings from Germany are absolutely to die for. Gorgeous.
They are, but they've got balance. And what I mean with balance is they've got the sweetness, but they have the acidity. So the balance of those two doesn't give you this cloyiness in your palate. You can sip and sip and sip and sip away.
I know, so nice.
And Riesling works well with a variety of foods, but especially works well with spicy food, which is fantastic.
Cape Malay food.
Cape Malay, Thai curries. If you even like, I even like our Riesling with sushi. So if you like the wasabi, sushi
I hadn't thought
there's a
about
spiciness
that.
there, and that acidity that cuts with the fish. So if you do even tuna sashimi, which is a heavy.
Because it's quite hard to have anything with wasabi. Talk about dominating flavors and killing everything off. Wasabi, that.
Yeah.
I reckon that we could have killed COVID with wasabi.
Probably.
Have you ever had a nasal flush when you've eaten too much wasabi? It's dreadful.
Yeah.
Paulie, you know, the world loves stories. And wineries with stories are nice things to have. Obviously, is there a gorgeous story about Paul Cluver Winery that we need to know about? About a family member, or a particular vineyard, or a particular Miss Us, or a something funny, or a something that nobody should know about Paul Cluver?
Well, if no one should know about it, then
We're just going to tell everybody.
Right?
We're going to tell everybody right now.
No, I mean, for me, the nicest probably story is that of my grandmother.
What is her name?
Gertrude. So right. So the reason the farm got managed by our family, because my great-great-grandfather bought it, but then there's his daughter who married a Cluver, basically rented out the
so
property.
Your great-great-grandpa on your maternal side bought it, he wasn't a Cluver?
No, he was a De Villiers.
Oh my goodness, okay. Those De Villiers is creeping everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah. But so my grandfather, as mentioned, they lived in Cape Town. He was a professor of psychiatry.
Of course he was.
And he had no interest in farming. And they were both actually concerned about the sustainability and the conservation of the farm, which the guy that was renting it wasn't doing.
Okay.
So my grandmother said, go away, I'm going to come and look after it. So she left Cape Town.
Put on her farming boots?
In the 1940s.
Wow.
Put on her farming boots, came to the farm, and there was no running water, no electricity, nothing. And she was out there on her own and started farming it. And the reason she started farming is she soon realized we can't do conservation if we don't have a functional business to be able to afford it. And what people often forget, and a fantastic example is, look at what has happened in the environment, the game parks and that in Zimbabwe, when the economy starts to falter.
It's not sustainable.
So we can afford to look after our environment when we're rich. Right. So she set off to actually develop
amazing.
the farm.
What perspicacity. When was it?
So she came back in 1942. My dad was 1 year old at the time. So she was looking after him. And then an incredible legacy that she left. So her focus was conservation.
We'll have to make a one called the Gertrude.
Yeah. And then in 1957, she founded a school on the farm, which today has 1,300 kids in it.
I know, it's amazing.
So it's a no-fee school. It feeds 3 meals a day per child. It's absolutely incredible.
It's amazing.
It's a wonderful legacy that she's left.
And you got soccer fields and all kinds of things there.
Yeah. But the wonderful thing is that conservation is almost a characteristic that's followed through. So my father got given the award by WWF for Lifetime Achievement in Conservation this year. And at the IWC, we also got the recognition for sustainable wine farming. So the best farming
well, there you go,
sustainable
guys.
production.
I mean, you
can't
beat
and that's
class.
something that wasn't dreamt up because people started talking about sustainability in the
it was
last
done
10 years.
with a conscience. Yes.
It's something that's come along generations. And I mean, people often say, so what happens for the next? I say, well, we are here to act as guardians of the property for future generations.
You're a custodian of it.
And that comes with responsibility, not with a right.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a completely different view, I think, of it. So if you ask me what Paul Cluver Wines is all about, it's achieving excellence in harmony with nature.
Yeah.
In our
it's
property.
inside and out.
Yeah.
I think also that once you plant the seed of sustainability, it's a little bit like everything. It gallops with its own momentum. And so you only have to help it along. You don't have to start like now. People who've never ever practiced sustainable farming in South Africa, having to spend a fortune on trying to get that up and running. Yours is already there. It's already in its own genetics.
But if you think if you farming today with the knowledge that the next generation's taking over, then you actually really care about what the condition will be when they take over, right? So I think with everything we do, even whether it's in a city or a place, how will future generations judge our actions of today?
They think we're stupid anyway. So I mean, we can give up trying right now.
But I do think as long as we can show that we're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Did we do it with the right intent? And when we realize we made a mistake, did we try and fix it?
Yes.
And as long as we do that, and you spoke earlier on about what are the good principles of
yes, so there's only one. Yeah.
But it's not just about you.
No.
It's not just about me. It's about actually
it's the collective,
and it's about we all have a responsibility.
No, it's the collective.
We recognize
if we stick to those principles, the collective benefits.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So,
you are a legend.
Thank you.
Your family is a legend. The farm is gorgeous. The wines are delicious. You really, really, really do. I'm going to make a plan to put some of those farms into the Solid Gold shop. And what you really need, because it carries connoisseurs and because it's hedonism and it's luxury and it's whatever, we might give them the odd special on the village, but they all have to try that Seven Flags. If you haven't had a bottle of Seven Flags Chardonnay or Pinot Noir, preferably both, well,
you can start
there's going to be a penalty.
Yeah, you can start.
There don't have to be penalties attached.
Yeah.
Fordy, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute privilege.
Wonderful to be here.
As always, thank you.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.